Have you ever heard the term silent majority? Have you felt like you could do more? Do you have a desire to help with local politics or make a difference in how the government operates? Is it overwhelming to think about? Those questions define me. They were me, but not anymore. This podcast is about our voice, our questions, our feelings, and working together to make a difference for the future. We believe that we must fight for our liberty or lose our freedoms. Join me as I speak to our friends and neighbors, our politicians and leaders, and discover ways that we all can make a difference in the direction of the United States of America.
Hello and welcome to Liberty or Lose podcast. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a while since we produced a show, but we are in the beginning of election season, and I am in Flathead County, Montana. Today, I'm at the 4B's restaurant here in beautiful Evergreen on a 10-degree chilly morning. We're here for Constance Neuman. She is talking about her run for office, and she's going to be running for House District number 9. Constance, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, I haven't been in this restaurant before, but nice selection. Food looks good. It's nice and clean. It's off the beaten path, so thanks for inviting us over.
We're glad you could join us.
So this morning you've got, 20 or so people coming over to hear your message?
Yes, I do. We have a number of friends and family and interested people that want to support my campaign. We have several legislators that are here that have publicly or privately endorsed me, and so it's going to be a good morning.
So your campaign, what made you decide to run for House District 9? Why now?
Oh, this is the time. If there ever was a time, this is it. Our country's in trouble, and you can't get away from the headlines. It just glares at you every day. So it's time for the people to stand up and claim their constitutional rights that are being violated by the current regimes that we have. So it's this is the time. We were made for such a day as this. We need to get out there and use our voices and speak truth. My campaign slogan is Truth Uncanceled. And it's time to take a stand for truth and to be bold and to stand up for our rights.
Well, I appreciate your position. And, you know, when I watch the news, just to date this a little bit, we're watching Ukraine be invaded by Russia. When I watch the news, I think, well, how can Constance Neumann change what I'm watching in the news? And as you said, the time is now to get involved. How do the two connect, or how do you make a difference? In my mind, as somebody that lives here locally, that you're going to be able to help us and change things.
Well, there's a lot of different levels to this. There's a lot going on. Of course, we have local in our community level, we have county, we have state, we have national. So we can't do everything, but we all can do something. And I'm doing what I can do because I just think it's so important for the states to stand up. It's up to the states to preserve our freedoms because they're being trampled by the regime that's in Washington. And I just want to lend my voice to that battle because it is a war. It's a war for the heart and soul of our country and our states and our communities. And so it's time to speak up for truth.
Yeah. On your flyer here, it says, standing strong for conservative Montana values. I know others like John Fuller, who's running for Senate. He says, defending Montana's values. What does that mean exactly, standing strong for Montana values? What are those values that you're going to be standing strong for?
Well, I call myself a constitutional conservative, and those aren't just words to me. I have experience to back that up. I went back to school as a working mom and got my paralegal degree and specialized in constitutional law. I went on to work for constitutional law attorneys like Kelly Shackelford, who went on to establish the First Libery Institute, that is the largest legal organization defending religious freedom in the United States. I have experience working as the administration director for a family policy council for the second largest state in the country. And we work very closely with the legislature there to get bills passed, good conservative bills passed, and a number of other things. So I've worked on other campaigns. I've worked on the Columbia Falls City County Planning Board, and conservative values are family values. And the nucleus is the family. We need to do what's best for our children and everyone involved to help keep the country safe and free as we know it.
So when I look at the constitutional items that you're supporting, let's walk through those a little bit. Your number one right there is pro-life.
Yes. I'm a staunch pro-life advocate. In fact, I've gone to jail for it.
Okay. There's a story there.
There is a story here. Much like a congressional candidate that we know, I went to jail in 1989 for praying in front of an abortion clinic in Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
And it was me and a few other people from our church, and the police came along, and we were quietly sitting down and praying, and they said, "You have to move." And we said, "No, we're going to stay here and pray." So they literally, 2 officers picked us up hand and foot and threw us in a paddy wagon and took us down to jail. And Dallas was a pretty rough place back then. They were having a problem with gangs. And in fact, the local hospital there, they called the emergency room the gun and knife clinic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was a pretty formidable experience being in jail. But anyway, we made a point, we made a statement. So I know what it means to stand for the courage of your convictions.
Yeah, I could imagine being in that jail cell when somebody else asks you what you're in for, and you said praying in front of the abortion clinic.
Yeah.
You're a hardened criminal. Well, you also talk about family values here. And what does that mean to you in terms of family values?
Well, it means traditional values. Our country was founded on principles that were very supportive of the family and based on biblical values. And the family is the basic unit of our society. And as the family goes, so the society goes, I believe. So it's really important to keep families strong and do everything we can to encourage that.
On the front of your flyer, it also talks about you being the co-owner of a firearm components manufacturing business. And I would imagine that that's why small business is so important to you as well. And we certainly understand the foundation in this country of small businesses and what they bring to our economies. But what is your position on small business?
Well, I have been a small business owner for over 40 years. I've had different businesses. My husband and I together own a manufacturing firm, a manufacturing business that creates components for the firearms industry. So when I say I am for the Second Amendment, gun rights,
Yeah.
that's more than a conviction. It's our livelihood. So that's non-negotiable. I'm very strong on Second Amendment rights.
It's funny, I know this show reaches beyond the borders of Montana, but when you meet the women of Montana and they say they are for Second Amendment rights, they are not kidding, folks. Most of them are gun-carrying NRA members, etc. Some of them are in the manufacturing business, so
Yep.
don't mess with our women. You know, I'm on school board, and I've had the opportunity to interact with a lot of parents in our community, and you talk about parent rights being an important part of your campaign. What does that mean to you, and what are you seeing as it relates to parents' rights or the loss thereof?
Well, I think we saw a great example when the mama bears in Virginia stood up for their kids in school. I was so encouraged by that. I mean, you don't fool with the mamas and the grandmas when it comes to their kids. And they set a great example for the rest of the country. And Jim, I really appreciate your stand and what you're doing as a trustee for our school board here in the Valley. You know, if they can get our kids, they've got the culture.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that they're taught truth and traditional values and things that build up and not tear down and create division.
Well, I pray before every school board meeting. My prayer is so the mama bears don't get me in the parking lot before the meeting starts. I want to make sure they know what my position is and I stand on their side. You know, I've been reluctant to talk about being on school board sometimes because it has such a negative connotation. But I think that the tides are changing. More parents are being involved. More parents are getting on school boards, are running for school boards across the state and around the country. As you talked about, we've seen some of that in the east side of this country. And then finally, you have here listed down as law enforcement, that is something that you support. I think we all have a vein in our bodies about supporting law enforcement. But why is it so important that you've put it on your flyer?
Well, we do have a rule of law in the land. It's called the Constitution. We also have criminal policies. We also have various federal laws that protect our community, including our institutions. We have some other local things going on that I don't think we want to get into now, but we just need to keep our communities safe and a free place where we are comfortable to walk around, visit with our neighbors. And I totally support law enforcement. I am for backing the blue. Most of our law enforcement officers are very good people. There's a few bad apples in every bunch, no matter what group you're in. And I think they do a wonderful job in protecting us.
You know, it's interesting. I had a conversation with a parent from Stillwater Christian School here, and he came from Minnesota, and he called it murder soda.
Oh.
And he says, you know, it was my city council that defunded the police first. Wow. And he says, you know, I am here to flee what I had there. He said he was in the, he owned a bunch of properties, and he said it was so bad they couldn't even collect rent on their apartment buildings and their townhomes and the houses that they rented. They liquidated everything and fled to be here. He says, Jim, literally, we couldn't collect our rent for fear of being shot in those neighborhoods that used to be great neighborhoods. Yeah. And he says, I hope that we can protect our law enforcement here in Montana, because he sees firsthand what had happened in what he called murder soda. So thank you for that being part of your platform. I also see there's a quote on your flyer from Senator Keith Regier, Senate District 3. He says, I enthusiastically endorse Constance Neumann for the Montana House of Representatives. She has the values and tools to serve House District 9 well. That's not a light statement from a very well-respected senator with Mr. Regier. What is it about your campaign or what you stand for or who you are that you've achieved so many great endorsements? I know I'm in the room with John Fuller here, and you've got so much success. So let's wrap with telling us why these well-established politicians are supporting you.
I so appreciate all the support that I've gotten. I've had a number of legislators that have stood behind me publicly and privately with endorsements. I'm at a point in my life where I don't intimidate anymore, and I think it's very important that we stand up and use our voices and speak truth, because if we don't, who will? So I have no fear in that respect. I've been through some battles in my life. I'm not intimidated by bullies. I do my best to articulate clearly, and we just need to use our voices and stand up for what's right. And I just encourage all of our listeners out there to do the same thing in their sphere, that we just need to be bold and stand up and speak up and just do the right thing and wherever we are.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the endorsements you have. I was going to say phoning in, but we're live here at the 4Bs in Evergreen recording this show. If you want to find out more about Constance Neumann, you can go to Neumann4MT.com, NEUMANNFORMT.com. You can also find her on Facebook, Neumann for Montana House District 9. She'd love to hear from you. She'd love to have your support. Send in your donations. That's what it takes to get this thing going. That's what it takes to win. But we believe she's the right person for the job. So, Constance, best of luck. I see people are starting to roll in to your event this morning. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Jim.